And the first person that Toonie is going to be talking to is Joseph Janson of NVTS, Night Vision Technology Solutions. And we're going to be talking about understanding fever detection cameras for reopening. So with that, I'll pass it over to Toonie.
Yes, and for those of you who just popped on, welcome to our 12th virtual Venture Cafe. We're noticing now, especially that the weather's getting warmer, we're having less people showing up for our signature Venture Cafes and having more people signing up oftentimes for our morning programs. But the good news is that we record all of these and within a week have them up on our YouTube channel, District Hall Providence, and we also share them on our website, districthallprovidence.org. And I was calling them startups too, but I realized like Joe is not a startup. NVTS is not a startup. It's a pretty well established veteran-owned business, and I'm very excited to be featuring these innovators. The second part of this half hour, I guess you could technically call it a startup, even though they're long-term entrepreneurs. So let's call them innovators. And we're highlighting in this segment, in times of struggle, new technologies and innovations and how they can shape how we interact with each other. So we're going to hear from these innovators, Rhode Island-based innovators, about how they're adapting their products and services to meet the needs of the public amid COVID-19. Welcome, Joe. And I guess I'll do a quick bio about you, and you can fill in the gaps with a better, probably a better description of your company. But Joe and his lovely wife and family live in Jamestown, Rhode Island, where he moved NVTS in 2014, I believe. He is a co-founder in 2010 of NVTS, and then in 2014 became the CEO, took full ownership. He came to Rhode Island, I believe, because he was in the Coast Guard, and not only served on an icebreaker in Antarctica in the Arctic, but was also over here at Newport's Castle Hill Station. He's an avid boater, overall great guy, and a really cool innovator. So Joe, do you want to give kind of a brief description about what NVTS is, and then we'll talk about the latest and greatest that you've created? You're muted, my friends. You're still muted. Almost. There we go.
Okay, thank you.
I can hear you.
Well, I hope my presentation is as half as informative as Eric's was. That was awesome, I thought. But a little about NVTS. We're located here in Jamestown, Rhode Island. We're in the defense sector. We manufacture night vision camera systems for surveillance, for homeland security, for shipboard applications, and for recently marine mammal detection, offshore wind, and just last 2.5 months for fever detection. And I can go through a little bit about what our projects that we have done in the past, where we've done projects where we're on an autonomous ship, the Sea Hunter. We've done projects where we work on autonomous land vehicles and stabilized maritime systems, plus border security. But into the fever detection, we saw that there was a need for this to address concerns with COVID-15. And we developed 2 fever camera systems. The technology is a thermal and a visible camera. And for those that aren't familiar with the thermal basically is agnostic to what time of day it is, whether it's day or night. It's just looking for the heat signature of a human or an object. So it'll pick out thermal differences in the scene and display them on the screen in different colors. So it could be black is hot, white is hot, red's hot, yellow. You could have a rainbow effect of different temperature variants. And then we compare it to the visible camera. So we're able to pick up temperatures of humans and set a temperature window. So say we think that a human is running a fever at 99 degrees or above, we'll set it between 99 and 104, and then it'll mark that temperature on the individual's forehead. It reads it from there and compare it to the visual camera.
Can you, so you have the fever spotter and the fever scanner. Do you want
Mhm.
to kind of just explain the difference between the two
Sure.
and how they work, who they're, who might be interested in them and why?
Okay, so we have two products we introduced this year. One is the Fever Spotter, which is a fixed mount camera system, which would be mounted to a wall or on a large tripod. It's has for it will monitor individuals coming in up to 10 at a time and put their temperatures on uh, their forehead as they traverse through a gateway, an entrance into an airport, commercial building, nursing home, and there'll be an operator there with the video will be displayed on a screen, so you'll see a comparison between the visible camera of the individual, so just like your cell phone, you see a visible camera of them, a video camera, and then right next to it will be the thermal image. And the thermal image will have the temperature on them, and then if the temperature is above what you would suspect it could be a potential fever, an alarm will go off. And that alarm will then take a snapshot, a photo, then record a video, and then put the temperature on it for a record. And then that individual could be taken aside and taken a formal temperature by a contact temperature. So that screens an individual that could be running a potential fever before they enter into a workplace, a hospital, or coming into an airport or a school for that matter. Now that is our longer range unit that will detect temperatures up to 12 meters away and scan hundreds of people a minute as they come through a gateway. Now they have to come through a gate to do this. It doesn't have an enormous wide field of view where it's in a huge room and it's going to scan everybody in a big room all at once. It doesn't move back and forth. The camera's fixed onto a location, and then there's a black body that's set off of it, which basically calibrates the camera and keeps the temperature constant.
Can they read, can a body temperature camera read through clothing?
No, it doesn't read through clothing. These cameras they're uncooled cameras, so they will read temperature differences on the surface. So beyond the surface, if it's a hot cup of coffee, it will read that.
Gotcha.
But for articles of clothing, it will show breaks in the wrinkles of the clothing. You'll see dark and light, or red or green, just from the, say if it's a baggy shirt, and you'll see wrinkles in it. It'll identify that, but it won't read the temperature of the individual underneath the clothing.
What, can a thermal camera read a temperature through like a protective glass screen?
No, it cannot. The thermal camera has to work through, it has a window, and that window is made out of what's called a material called germanium, which is passive to heat sensitivity. So it actually passes the heat through germanium where it wouldn't through glass. So a regular glass window, piece of plexiglass, will not read through.
I'm looking through frequently asked questions here. Can a new sunburn read as a high temperature?
Yes, actually, if it's warmer than average, it's good. Again, it's going to read anything warm, and it's going to display the temperature. So in that fact, if you're somebody that was running cool without a sunburn, their temperature would be cooler. If somebody had a really bad sunburn, it could read a couple degrees higher.
It's all fascinating, and it doesn't surprise me at all that you were quick to pivot and create these technologies that we all, as I'm thinking, we're all still remote at District Hall Venture Cafe, and as you know, because I've talked to you about this, trying to decide what our new normal procedure looks like, because I don't want it to ever feel invasive. That's not what we're all about. We want people to feel comfortable and happy coming into our space. So I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to share? Like what kind of, I know you're already super busy and thinking about what scaling is looking like in this new normal for your own company. you want to share as an innovator, like what's going on right now with your Rhode Island-based technology company?
Sure. Well, again, the introduction of the two fever products was a fever spotter, which I talked about briefly, and then there's a handheld version, which is the fever scanner, which is designed to be operated as a portable unit up to 8 meters away. Doesn't scan as many people at once, 2 versus up to 10, and it would be for low traffic areas. Now that could be a handheld mount, physically hold it in your hand, has a display built into the unit, and or you can put it on a tripod and have a remote computer monitor next to it just to have a larger display of that. And we see the business this year as being very robust for us, not only in our defense category. We have a lot of projects, and also with offshore wind, but also in the fever detection cameras. Now, that said, we didn't have a model to go by. There was nothing to compare it to. We weren't sure what to expect when we introduced the products, but the response has been, very strong, both domestically and overseas, to provide a solution. But we also want to manage people's expectations with the product too. It is a first warning or alert to somebody to screen individuals coming in that could have a potential fever. Obviously, it's not going to detect somebody who is asymptomatic, or they took 2 Tylenol before they went to work and they reduced their fever. We want to manage expectations with it. So if somebody is running a high fever coming in, then we can, then that could be an early warning detection to separate that individual from entering a crowded space or a workplace, school, hospital, nursing home, etc.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm thinking as we continue to develop our strategies moving into this new normal, and things continue to unfold, like I'm curious to see how like insurance companies and insurance policies will affect acquiring products like this.
Well, you bring up a good point, Toonie, on that, because we haven't approached insurance companies. I think insurance companies are probably looking for ways to, mitigate their risk. Just not that everybody walking through it are going to have a high percent of the people that are running a fever going to work. If you're sick, you usually stay home, right? But there are individuals that may not know they're running a fever or think they're running a hot or whatever. That one individual could impact 30 other individuals if they make contact with them. So, just to reduce the chance by 20%, 10%, the aggregate of that is a big number. And I think it's just a safe, relatively inexpensive asset to provide there to give some sort of first level screening, given there aren't any other technologies out now to do that. And it does give people a somewhat level of comfort. I mean, in this new norm, which we're still trying to figure out the best methods, and also, provide a safe environment for people to work as we go back to work and to move into public spaces, to have that level of security, just like we had that level of security after 9/11 with security cameras. We're used to that. This is kind of on par with the same thing. It's a security camera. It's taking video of people, but of potential temperatures. And I think the public will accept that, because it's
a new threat.
It's safe. Well, it's a threat, but it's also safety. It not only protects the individual that may have an elevated temperature to get treatment to separate them, they may not know. But it also provides just another level of measure of safety that's implemented in this. And, as these things develop, we're looking at new technologies to replace these units moving forward, to, have other functionality just versus temperature. So that's got us into this market per se, and into this evolving technology where, we have new innovative ideas that we're taking out of our defense experience in thermal imaging, and applying it to, this, worldwide problem.
Well, thank you so much for being on and sharing. And